Today we're going to talk about how to do a basic pick and place application with your linear actuator. In our previous video, we integrated our Yamaha motion controller into our Compact Logix PLC. And to recap on that, we added the linear actuator to our I/O configuration, and we installed the YAMTS AOI instruction and got it working so that if I enter 200 millimeters here, when I press the enter key, it moves up to 200 millimeters. So the next step for most of you is you want to do some type of pick and place application. So you're at point A, you need to move to point B. Maybe there's a point C in the middle, then we're back to point A. So we're going to start, let's just go point A, point B, and just have it repeat between point A and point B. Now, there's a lot of different ways we can do this, but I will say, try to think about the future when you are. Don't just say, well, I probably just need point A, point B, because that would be binary, 0 or 1. What if all of a sudden we add that point C? The way we do our logic, are we going to be able to do that? Now, we have a whole video up in the sequencing chapter that talks through different ways you can sequence machine steps, and all of those will work perfectly fine. So I'm just going to pick one of those methods and we're going to start building this out. Now let's go ahead and do all these edits offline. So go ahead and go back offline. And also, if you're wondering where all this actually came from, it is in the motion control chapter of the Studio 5000 course. But I had us write all of this in the main routine, and overall that's a bad practice. It was really good for us just learning this part. But we want to make some subroutines, and we're not going to be doing any type of fancy execution with them. We're just going to use them for folder organization. So I'm going to right-click the main program, add new routine. Let's call this our motion. In fact, we'll just click into here, and if we go to edit, we can select all, and then edit, we want to cut. So we're going to cut all of that out, and then we're going to go down here into the motion, delete that rung that automatically gets inserted, and then we're going to paste it in. So all we've done is put that into a little folder. Now, by default, only the main routine, or the one with the 1 here, that's all that's going to be executed. So if you want this motion routine to execute, then you're going to have to tell it here to go do that. The easy way to do that is just highlight the rung and type J, S, R, and press the enter key. That inserts the rung and the instruction, and then we can go and find motion. But all right, in that case, you do need to know what all of them are. So the other way we could do it is we can just go over to our program control tab, and here is the JSR. So we can bring down a new rung, the JSR, and notice this way there's a few more obstacles. When I just type it, it just brings in the question mark for our routine. But now I've got to get rid of these input and return parameters. And to do that, we just remove instruction parameter, right click, remove instruction parameter, right click, remove instruction parameter. Oops. If I right click on the right thing, we can remove it. So here's one. I almost never drag the JSR just because it's a whole lot more work. I usually do just type it in. All right, now we need one just for our sequence control, because typically we would do more than just move from point A to point B. We would probably move to point B and then maybe, energize a solenoid or do some operation. So we're going to right click, add new routine, and let's call this our sequence. Here's all the sequencing methods that were in the sequencing video series, and I like this move decimal, and I like the one that actually spaces it out by 10. Now, if you're not sure what I'm talking about here, then just go review that video. And I really like this one because while it's not very sophisticated, it leaves us a lot of opportunities to add things later on. So this one goes from step 10 to step 20 to step 30. So if I forget something in here, I can add a step 15, and we talk about that in that. But this is what we're going to do on this one. So we're going to create a tag called sequence. I think that sounds good. And then we are going to do just some basic moves back and forth. So let's go ahead and go over to our program. And let's bring down a equal. Now here's one little hitch, because remember I'm doing this in version 36. is my equal statement is now called an EQ. If you're using before 36, then your equal statement is going to be called an EQU. They do the exact same thing. It's just something Rockwell has done to kind of make their instructions uniform. So let's call this sequence, and then we'll right-click sequence and new, and the default data type of dent will be fine. So if sequence equals 10, then we're going to move to 300 millimeters. So I'm going to go to the Move Logical tab and bring our MOV move instruction down. And we want to, there you go. I even said MOV because it is an MOV move instruction. I said it so many years, but in 36 is an MOVE. And so if E equals 10, we're going to move a value of 300 millimeters because we're going to run out to 300 millimeters, and we're going to move it to our absolute position. So we'll just hit our drop down here because I don't remember exactly what it was called. And there it is, the move absolute position. So we'll move 300 to it. And then one really interesting thing about Studio 5000 is we can bring instructions down after the move, because after some conditions gone, we're going to want to make our sequence equal 20. Now, ultimately, you're going to think that you want to go get something out of this linear AOI, mainly the position complete, because if the position complete is a 1, that means it's moved to its position. But there is an issue with doing that, is when we execute that 300 millimeter, like even now, the position is complete. It is at the position's at. So when we tell it to go to here, that's already going to happen. So the first thing we need to know, instead of position complete, is that it's actually in a cycle. That's how we know that it's executed the command and it's starting to move. So after that, we're going to bring down another move instruction. And at that point, we'll be ready to move a value of 20 to our sequence. And we can just drag that sequence word right over there. Okay, so once we're in motion, because that's really what we're telling here when we're 20, now we want to know that the position is complete. So I'm going to right-click this equal, and we're going to copy it, and then we'll bring a new rung down, and we can right-click and paste it there. So we are equal to that. Then we can go look for a 1 down, and we want to know that our position is complete. So linear AOI dot position complete. And once that position's complete, we're ready to move another value to our sequence. So we'll go ahead and bring down a move logical. And it's the same sequence here, so I can drag that down. And we're going to move a value of 30 in. Okay, so once we're at 30, then we want to bring a rung down. We want to go back to 0, because that's all we're going to do is zigzag back and forth between 300 millimeter and 0 millimeter. And so we'll go ahead and bring an EQU, or I'm sorry, in 36's case, it's called an EQ instruction down. And yours, it's an EQU if you're before 36. And we're going to look for that sequence to be equal. Here's where copy and paste can get you in trouble. We did not finish rung 1. This is when it was equal to 10, and once it's completed, it puts a 20 in. So this one, it needs to be that it's 20. It puts a 30 in. And this one is a 30. And then we're going to do the same thing. And I'm going to get in trouble copy and paste in here, but I want to highlight those 3 instructions. You're going to right click and copy them. And yeah, we want to paste them right there. And this time we're going to move a value of 0 in to get it back to 0 millimeters. We're going to make sure it's in cycle. And we're going to put a value of 40 in. Then we're actually doing the same thing as this. So we're going to right click, and I want to copy that whole rung. We're going to right click, and we're going to paste it. And so when we equal 40, and the position is complete, then I'm going to move a value of 50 in. And that completes our cycle. So let's go back over to the sequence and exercise just so we can see what we did at the end. And so we said if the sequence equals, actually that was a bad deal. That should have been a greater than equal to. Oh no, this one was different. Never mind. I have to remember what we did there. So what I'm going to say is if it's greater than equal to whatever that value was, we're going to move 10 into. And also if it's 0, we're going to move 10 into it because that's the beginning of our sequence. So similarly, we'll bring a new rung down and we'll bring in, I still feel that shouldn't have been an EQ, and I need to review that video again, but I believe that should be a greater than or equal to just in case something crazy happens. So if our sequence is greater than or equal to 50, or when you hear the word or come out of your mouth, that's when we're going to bring a branch down. If our sequence is less than, because then here if it's 10, we don't want to do this. If our sequence is less than 10, then we're going to go to the move logical and bring an MOV move instruction down, and we will move 10 back to our sequence. And that will get us repeating through this. All right, now we have one thing from our previous video that we have not addressed and probably should address, but I don't believe that, actually, no, I'm going to say for now, we should not address this. We'll address this at the end of the video because right now you still have to toggle the servo on. And I feel while you're learning, you probably need to have that happen. So that way you don't turn on your trainer and the thing magically just start taking off. So let's go ahead and download that. So we go communications, do active, and go ahead and hit that download button. And if you need any help downloading, configuring drivers, or if you're like, whoa, I have no idea what you actually just said in any of that, then look down in the description and there's a link there that will take you through this whole course. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We put out at least one new video a week. Oh, and we have a warning down here and we have servo. And here's why, ultimately I always tell you, you'll never look at warnings. We have 3 warnings and only one of them matters. But it says sequence routine cannot be reached by the main routine. Now let's go ahead and look at the sequence routine so we can see the difference between the motion routine and the sequence routine. Notice we have no green bars, and over here we do. So the green bars mean that the program could be scanned. Doesn't mean necessarily it is, but yeah, when I had you go and put the instructions from the main routine into the motion, we added a JSR for it, but we did not add a JSR to get the sequence routine going. So let's just right click rung 0 and copy that rung, and we'll right click and paste it, and then go and grab that sequence routine and do not hit the finalize button, just so you can get a good mental snapshot. This is something we do in our in-person class. Is right now we have no green bars, and I always tell people, they always go for the obvious. They're like, yeah, the routine's not being scanned. I'm like, okay, but next week, what does it mean? If you don't know what I mean when I say next week, it's when you're back at the plant. What does that tell us? It could be the routine's not being scanned, but also I want your eyes to come right over here and make sure that you're not offline, because I have hundreds of hours, cable laying in the floor, forgot to turn the machine back on, didn't go back online, but we are online. So when we hit the finalize button, we're going to immediately get green bars. And now we know that we're good to go. All right. And we are on sequence 10. It moved in absolute position. It's waiting for it to be in cycle. And so first, why did it not go in cycle? Let's go look at the error, because this is great troubleshooting here. And we already know why it's not on. It's because the servo's not on. So let's go ahead and try to turn our servo on. Right click and toggle bit, and we got no motion. So let's go check out the add-on instruction and figure out why we don't have any motion. And we go down here, we have an error on it, and it's error 4003. And it says input parameter data out of range. And okay, while I put in a move absolute position, I have a speed of 0. So it's not going to let me go anywhere with a speed of 0. Now, this is really interesting because I feel I will run a fixed speed everywhere. So I could simply put a move instruction. In fact, don't we have one? Yeah, we kind of have this up, or we could finish this up and put a move instruction for fixed speed. Let's say that, we had a load on this, so we couldn't take off but so hard going one way, but retracting, we could retract real fast. We may want different speeds. So let's do that. Let's make this go different speeds here. So let's go to our sequence. Let's start at rung edit on rung 0 and just right click that MOV, and like, it's going to take me a long time to get used to the new instructions. Right click the MOVE and copy instruction and right click it and just paste. So we got 2 copies of it. And let's just go grab that speed. It's right beneath it. And I'm going to make the speed 100 for 100%. Now, arguably, I only need to do this on sequence 20 right now, because it'll stay that value until I want to change it. So let's just do that. Let's see how this works out. Oh, immediately we got, all right, so here's an interesting one. Our sequence is already out of whack because we're at 20 now and we need to be at 10. We didn't really put a way to reset it in. So manually, we are just going to come here and we're going to enter 10 back into our sequence. That'll get us back at the beginning of it. And so we're 10. It moves 300 to our position. It moves 100 to our speed. And now it's waiting for us to be in cycle. So if we go over here to our motion, though, we're not in cycle because we had the error here. If we go up, then we put a way to reset right here, and it is our red button. So the moment that I hit the red button, press it in, let off, and now it goes to 300. Okay, no, it did not go to the next step. So let's go figure out why. So go back to our sequencing exercise, and it says we're on step 10, which is really weird. Why did it go to step 10, or why did it not move through the rest of them? The position obviously got complete, and it would have moved to 20. And that would move a 30. I'm looking at this 300 and I'm trying to understand what exactly happened there. Let's go down here and see if I made a typo down here. So if that's greater than equal to, or that's less than, move a 10. Yeah. All right, I would have thought that would have worked. Tell you what, let's do. Because, yeah, I think I know what it is. I don't believe the end cycle is probably the right one, because received and in cycle, well, if it was already there, this may be the wrong bet. But okay, what I want us to do is let's put a 20 in here and let's see what happens when we put a 20 in. Okay, zooms up, zooms down. Oh, we got stuck again. Okay, let's go look here and let's try to follow exactly what's going on. When I put a 20 in, that made this equal to 20. And then it was looking for the position to be complete, which was already complete because it was there. Yeah, I think there is a little bit of a hang up here that we're going to think through. I was trying to do this to make sure, because what I was initially thinking was this would have been immediately true. We just need to delay this by 1. Let me think on this one. Okay, so let's walk through it. So then the position was complete. It went to 30. Sequence equals 30. It moves a 0 to the position. Waits for it to be in cycle. There is a system busy that may have been what I should have used there. And then that moves a 40 to it. And so we have 40 and position complete. Move 50 to it. And then would be greater than or equal to 50. And that brings us back up here. Would have thought that would have worked perfectly fine. Let's do that again and just see here. So we'll look at the program while we do it this time. 20 definitely goes down, zooms back up, and then gets stuck in the same spot. Let's think through this. So position complete. So that means that we are at position 0, and we put 50 in, and then we put a 10 in. I have to admit, it's at 300, and we're at a sequence step of 10. We never got this end cycle. I don't believe this end cycle is right. So let's go check this out. So the end cycle, status acknowledge and notion. Okay, that seemed right, but there's also servo busy, servo status busy, or in motion. So busy on, operations are in progress, run input in progress. Maybe that was the bit we should have used. Let's try that. So let's go over here and we'll have to start a rung edit on this one. And we want to put the servo busy in. And then we'll have to do the same on rung 3. Let's change that one to the servo busy. And go ahead and finalize that. And we will have to figure it out this first time. We're going to think about that part. So 20. Oh, there we go. All right. So it's the servo busy and not the servo in motion. Okay. Now that's cool. We're zigzagging back and forth. Now we had that speed thing. Let's say that we wanted to run 50% up, 100% back. That way we're feeding something in maybe. Don't want to damage the part. We want to get that thing out of the way. Let's make this move a speed of 50 in, and then let's copy that move, and let's go down to our other move absolute position and paste that there. And let's make it 100% that way. And when we finalize that, now it'll go slow one way, retract back. Slow one way, retract back. Okay, now let's slow this on down now. That way I probably, you're having to hear all that racket on the mic anyway. Yes. Let's change this to 50. And let's change the other one to 25. Because, yeah, especially if you're doing this in a classroom, your instructor's probably getting irritated with me about now. There we go. Now we got a nice slowness so we can talk about a few things. All right, so now let's think a little bit about this. Okay, now let's say that we want to go up to 300, and then we want to retract back to 150, and then we want to go back for whatever reason. Maybe there's an intermediate step. Here's the advantage to using this sequence method. So what we need to do is we really need a copy of these two. So I'm going to right click and copy them. And I want to paste them right here. That way we get, whoops, I pasted them in the wrong spot. Drag those up one rung. So now here is our move to 300 millimeters. And down here is our move to 0. In the middle here, I want to go to 50. I'm 150, so I'm going to put 150 for a position, and just so we can even have one different speed, let's make this one a speed of 10. Okay, now let's talk through how we'll actually get this sequence in here, because right now, this is step 30, this is step 40. So to keep me from having to mess with anything else, I can start a rung at it here, and I'm going to make this step 25. And so we'll put, if that equals 25, do the 150 millimeter move. And just so we have a little bit of space, I'm going to make this step 28. Notice these numbers do not have to be even. And then if it equals 28, then we're going to go on to step 30. We're going to hit the finalize button just so you see this will happen live, or you'll see me mess up live. As I hit it now, whoops, got to hit the S button. Goes up. Now it's going to go slow, 150, zoom back. So zoom, slow back. All right. So there is a basic pick and place. Our jog still works perfectly fine. We switch it back to auto, and it still works. Okay. Now, I firmly feel with that right there, you can do almost any application that you have out there as far as basic linear motion control. Now, a lot of you come to me and are like, well, I need to learn kinetics. And I always ask you, okay, do you really need to learn kinetics, or are you looking at the Instruction Studio 5000 thinking you need to learn kinetics? And usually it's like, hey, I'm looking at the instructions thinking I need to learn about it. So I don't believe that you actually usually need a kinetics application when you're thinking about selecting them. But I do want you to be able to learn about it. So we're going to talk next about how we can use our linear actuator and learn about the motion instructions that are in Studio 5000. And that is in this playlist right here, along with some other helpful tips.